All right, everyone has gotten their coffee, and I don't remember what all the floors are, but I think the main message was walk around. Go to the different floors and treat this as a treasure hunt. So my name is Tricia Wang, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of the Advanced AI Society, and we're creating the market infrastructure for many of the technologies you're going to be hearing about today. But my main purpose today is to be your host, be the benevolent dictator of the mic. And so as the person controlling mic, you should look to me as helping you navigate the various floors and do what, you just heard earlier when those who just came to the room. We had the co-founder of the building, Jacob Jetto, who is under your fellow. And Jacob's put a brilliant analogy for what this grand experiment is happening at a Frontier Tower, which is that we're not here just to build a community, we're here to build a society. He talks about the three important necessary factors to bring this society together, which you governance, you need economics, and you need currency. You're going to find that all the floors. Now, I've been reflecting on, one of the important things that have made society what we are is all of our innovations. And many of the innovations that we have today, we could thank to the discovery of pi, which is really the mother of all commons. And I do not think it should be lost upon us that over centuries, I think, humans have figured out how to hold this narrative together of keeping the commons, of keeping the pi of commons. No one owns it, no one oversees it, and it has been discovered independently by many societies that have a strong mathematical tradition. Babylonians, to the Egyptians, to the Chinese, to the Greek. So they all were able to do innovations, such as building the architectures of their time, from fluid dynamics to engineering to calculating, now mathematical distance, not just on Earth, but to space, all thanks to this very special formula that simply helps us figure out how to predict distances using circumference, using circle. And so it allows society to move from really being literally, a society of squares to a society of circles. And it really diversified society to have this commons be a technology that was available for everyone. And so we really need to think about, well, how do we figure out the commons of our times? And it just so happens that today is also the birthday of anyone? Come on, we're a room of nerds. You have to know this. Pi and Einstein. It is Einstein's birthday. We have to wake up. We need more coffee, please. There's coffee right behind you, but don't get up this second. You can do it in a break. So Einstein, I think, is also a really interesting contrast. On one end, we have pi, which is, the mother of all commons, right? The great grandmother of all commons. And then we have E equals MC squared, where Einstein discovers a powerful algorithm that unleashes the greatest source of energy in history. And he figures it out, and then it moves out of his control. One government decides to move faster than all other governments to weaponize it before any governance exists, before even any economy around it exists. An entire government is able to, literally constrain and build a moat around this technology. And then Einstein, we all go to wars, and we don't have to recount of what happens with that surplus of energy is not redistributed. Literally, it is kept within one country and their allies' resources. And so Einstein spent his life trying to figure out, well, how do we redistribute this surplus? How do we make sure that all of the innovations that come from this formula is not just held in one hand, that we create the governance, we create the economy to make sure that we can all keep it into the commons and figure out how we want to use the technology. And so now, today, it is, we have pi on one end, that's the mother of all commons, and then we see, Einstein with his energy, with his formula that really didn't go the way of pi. And so I think it's a historical moment that we are here today. And I feel it's an honor to be able to emcee this event and have so many incredible speakers to really talk about the really central question of what kind of systems do we design for human flourishing. And as we think about this, I hear that we're in San Francisco, we often hear, AI is the future, AI is right now. And there's a lot of anxiety that is built up and creates this incredible creative tension and innovation, which is how do we figure out how to be on the right side of that question? And everyone's helps together, especially the conversations in this building and all of San Francisco is how do we make sure we are building our moat? How do we want to be on the right side of that moat? And as we figured that out, I think there's two ways you can approach a moat. Either, you build up your moat, you build up an island of your own. You could build a basalt castle, and here we are at the Batir Towers, the 16 floors. But here's the thing that I think what's important about what David Casey has said. It was setting the agenda about even flourishing, which is that we're not here just to build our moat, but for society to thrive, we need to build bridges out. And so what are all those bridges we need to build? And so what you just heard right now is 16 floors of incredible programming from the arts, you have robotics, you have hacking, you have important questions. If you make it all the way up to the 16th floor, and I'm gonna see who actually makes it up by the end of the day. We're gonna do some, hand raises of how many steps did you get in, is that how do we figure out how to build bridges literally from the bottom up? We are on the second floor right now. On the ground floor, this is a grassroots effort, we're gonna go and figure out this treasure hunt. So we're here on this building, we're gonna shake it up, and then we're gonna see what comes out because it's an experiment. So your job today is not just to figure out how do I get on the right side of history and of this AI, innovation, and how do I capture it, but how do I build bridges out? And that's why all the floors are here. Literally, everything that we need to do to figure out society is in this room. But the bridges have not been fully built. And it is our job to do that as the attendees, as the speakers, and it is my job to help guide you around those floors. And I'm also gonna need to hear from all the floors so that I'm literally been here on the ground floor. And now, one way to think about all the floors, I'm gonna give you a framework, and then we're gonna be using this kind of framing for the rest of the day, is the simple navigation lens. As if there's so much happening. I just heard David say there's over 200 talks, right? And we've got over 4 hackathons. Is that one framing is to think about that there's 3 layers happening all at the same time, regardless of how many 16 floors and all the floors you're gonna find, is that there's the hardware layer, there's the software layer, and those are typically the 2 layers that we talk about the most. But as Dej talked about earlier, is that we have to think about always culture, and that's the social layer there. And that is our job today, is to figure out how do we not just only build up the hardware and software, but how do we make connections to figure out all the social layer that has to be launched and all the bridges and all the coordination that has to happen. And especially in this moment, as we now can all agree, agents will outnumber human beings. And for agents to be successful, they will operate in a multi-cloud, multi-vendor environment, and they will be doing things that we are not going to be able to always keep an eye on. And so the question is, do we see agents as extensions of us, or do we see them, as we've been talking about AI, as this kind of a popular narrative around that it's like this thing that's against us that we have to lock down. Now, agents aren't always so foreign, because if we see them as just a metaphor of nature, we've seen society approach nature in 2 ways. One, you see nature as an adversary. We have to control it, we have to prune it, we have to, actually burn it and make all these ways of creating how it's going to serve us. Or we see nature as an extension of us. And you're going to see the ways that many communities here, from indigenous communities to communities on the ground to hyper-local ways that have kept this kind of approach to nature alive, which is seeing nature as an extension of us. And so we're going to see that as a common way throughout the day as a part of this discussion. And so the goal for you is to shake it up, to use this floor as a listening floor, as a ground floor here, but we're going to have conversations that challenge our assumptions of how do we think about agents, how do we think about human flourishing, and how do we sync up, and how do we compare notes. And so I want this to be the floor for listening, and then what you need to do is leave this floor and go to the other floors to compare notes and make your way back down throughout the day when you want to come back and get some inspiration again. And so before I introduce the next speaker, I just want to remind everyone that there is a coffee house, a tea house back there where you can get coffee and tea. And then I've also been given the note that you cannot burn sage in this building. And apparently that is an issue. And I love that we are at a kind of festival where I, as the MC, need to make this announcement, because usually I have to tell you where's the bathroom and how do you get out in case there's an emergency and the schedule and all 16 floors. But I am also here to continually remind you that we are not able to burn sage in this building so that we don't get the fire department called upon us, because we need to continue the conversations. What? And it has happened. David, literally, I was like, I got this note last night. I was like, are you serious? He's like, absolutely. It is real. We are not trying to make your job harder, Tricia. So I'm like, great. I can make that announcement. You also cannot burn Palo Santo. You can also not smoke pot in the building, but we have many other ways to do that because we are in San Francisco in California, where there's so many other ways to ingest all these amazing, molecules without creating smoke and residue. And so with that, talking about smoke and residue and, nature, I'm really excited to bring up our next speaker, David Dahl, whose work I've been following for a while now in this space. David Dahl, no, really, I'm excited to have you. I need it. I know you're not going to burn sage as part of your session, but you are practically from the rainforest. David Dahl is a chief scientist, as he has already gained force. And did he literally fly in from Switzerland with us, or? Okay. And we have a very international crowd here. So when our first speaker, I can officially say, flew in from Switzerland and made it here. He's won the X Prize for Gainforest, which you're going to tell us about, really about rainforests and how you actually were able to use many of the technologies already mentioned in this building, decentralized tech, alongside combining it with the social aware, which is indigenous communities, and really using their knowledge on how to prevent deforestation, because they have managed one of our greatest resources for a long time. So what you're going to hear from Dave is really looking at the software, which is centralized technology, using many of the tools we'll discuss in the 16th floor, but then combining it with saying, look, the software is not enough. We have to apply it to solving social problems. And so what he did was he really bridged the decentralized technology with thinking about, well, how do we really figure out deforestation, desertification? And so his work is extensively referenced in a lot of in the essay that really inspired David and his team and his company for funding the conference, for putting this conference on, which is how do we not lose human judgments and thinking through what is a regenerative intelligence work looks like. So with that, please welcome David Dahl, and I'm excited for the rest of the day, and Minky for kicking it off for us.
You do.